Hello, everyone, and welcome to Speaking Moistly, our usual Tuesday afternoon chat. Greg, dude, crazy stuff has been happening. Have you been like seeing? Actually, I've been watching your live streams, man. There's some crazy stuff that's been happening. From your live streams, I would never have guessed what the House of Commons would say about what was happening down in Ottawa. So how you doing, man? That's a crazy week.
I'm feeling great, man. My gas tank of love and hope for this nation is overflowing. So I'm seeing a lot of what's happening on TV, and it's just a lot of it's very laughable, to be honest.
It's
And
interesting.
of course, it's also very scary because these are the people, this fringe minority are the people that have the power, right? Like they have the power to try and enforce and do these things. But oh, that's my phone. But sorry about that.
Do you want to pause it?
No, we got it. We got it.
Okay.
But yeah, no, it's been it's only validated everyone who came out to the protest, because like in many ways the sentiment across the board at people, the convoy, was the government is out of control. Like they
Yeah.
need to be dialed in, they need to be checked,
And
we
how
need to
did the
get rid of
government
these restrictions. Yeah, well,
How did
yeah.
the government respond to the accusation you are out of control? They assumed emergency powers and put down the rebellion, of course.
Yeah, and
Weird, right?
all across the board, every talking point that these people have is, it's, we've talked about this before on the show, but like it's just an inversion of what's
Mhm.
actually happening.
Well, the
It's
blockades were
like
done 2 days before the declaration of a state of emergency, and they were done with regular legal powers, right? The tow truck,
right. I mean, the blockades in the city.
the Ambassador Bridge and like the
Oh, okay.
the
Yeah.
trade blockades, but they don't offer context when they talk about things. Like I was saying on my show this morning, they'll talk about how this is terrible and there's people of Ottawa, blah 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 blah, but they conveniently forget what happened with Black Lives Matter just last year or 2 years ago in 2020. So and the destruction they wrought and the disruption that they brought to the places that
Yeah.
they went, and it was an entire summer and nobody said a darn word. There was flaming debris thrown in front of trains. There were blockades at ports, which cost a
Hmm.
lot more than the Ambassador Bridge. Nobody said a darn thing. And then and again, to go back to your live streams, there was no violence that I saw in Ottawa. And I mean, the powers that be, it looks like, are trying to reimagine what happened into the rhetoric we're seeing in the debate we saw yesterday. The Senate's debating today using the same garbage rhetoric. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
it is similar to January 6th in that um they're talking about, essentially people showing up at the Capitol and causing all that ruckus. The establishment is like, this is the worst thing that's ever happened.
Mhm.
And it's similar here in Canada where, inconveniencing people in Ottawa is the worst thing. It's an emergency. And it's
Yeah.
like, okay, so inconveniencing people in Ottawa versus not having clean drinking water, for example. It's like, we're going to call a state of emergency. We're going to freeze bank accounts. Oh, what? All because of some honking.
When
It's
no, when COVID first started, Trudeau went for the I don't know that he went for the Emergencies Act, but he put into the first bill that they were going to pass, like the emergency package, like the
sure.
spending package for the CEWS, that they would basically have a blank check for 21 months or something like that. And
Sure.
so this is a different route to that same outcome. So it was never about the it was never about delivering tangible infrastructure or using Canadians tax dollars in a way that benefits Canadians directly. It was always about implementing
A power
these
grab.
these control. It was a power grab.
Power
Yeah,
grab.
these control measures, these
Yeah.
control levers. So
But I bring up the indigenous drinking water because the public is supposed to believe that, right? Like they're supposed to believe that what's happening in Ottawa or what happened in Ottawa is enough to justify emergency measures,
yeah,
whereas everything else that's happened before this, yeah, like I guess doesn't matter. But I think the biggest pieces of hypocrisy that are absolutely abhorrent are the fact that um people are, victim to police brutality, and
yeah,
some people are in the hospital
yeah.
and they have ongoing health problems now because of violence perpetrated by the police. Like these are the people who were violent and have been violent.
Mhm.
And meanwhile, we have the Ottawa police Twitter which is a lot more like a parody account at this point, because everything they say is just so dishonest. It's an inversion of reality. They said that protesters trying weapons or something. They said that
hold on.
protesters were saying,
Oh,
what?
You're stuttering a whole lot. So
What?
They said the police. I didn't hear the first tweet. You kind of went.
Sorry, I cut out. Yeah.
Yeah.
The protesters are stealing our weapons. Trying to steal our weapons. That's something that the Ottawa police tweeted out, that they're being violent and they're trying to steal our weapons.
I heard that.
Yeah, they tweeted that out once.
Yeah.
And they also said that the protesters are like throwing gas at us or something.
Yeah, gas canisters.
Like, no.
Yeah, and then
which is
I saw they linked to a video where the police had fired a gas canister at the crowd, and the crowd kicked it back at the police. That was the justification for that tweet that I saw.
Right.
I was like, because I retweeted that one. I was like, seriously? And then somebody sent that video to me. I was like, I don't know that counts as throwing gas at the police. Like,
no,
kicking a gas canister away from your feet is not throwing gas at the police. Just like demanding that the prime minister step down is not trying to overthrow the government. Like, if you and I have a conversation saying, I'd really like Justin Trudeau to step down, we're not talking about overthrowing the government. We would like the MPs to do their job and stop the tyranny and restore our basic charter rights. But
well, and another popular one is because I talked to a couple locals when I was in Ottawa, and I ended up telling this guy, you consume propaganda, and the fact that you listen to CBC, like, you're not, you consume propaganda. And he's like, no, I don't. And I'm like, well, what do you think this protest is about? And then he started to talk about Pat King.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
somebody was like, oh, you're a Pat King acolyte. I was like,
yeah, exactly.
No.
So
I don't even know what it means.
I don't even know much about Pat King, but here's the point. The point is, they're saying, oh, basically, Pat King is a bigot or something, or he has some clips saying some wild stuff. Let's compare that to what Justin Trudeau has said in the past 12 months. What are we going to do about these people? They're racist, misogynist, whatever. They can't get on a plane or a train. And on and on. Like, this, I'm worried about the bigots in office. I'm worried about the people who are, dehumanizing a part of the population in office, those who have power, those who have control, those who have the state and media power to oppress us. Like, that is the whole point, right? And every step along the way, the media and our politicians are inverting that and saying, well, who's amongst the protesters? What are their politics? Well, let's look at their entire resume and everything that they've said. And it's like, this is not what this is about, guys. This is about holding you accountable in the parliament buildings. And getting really tired having to repeat myself over and over again. But
I know, right? They'll never try. And so the whole game is to deflect to the point and have a conversation that is maybe connected to the core issue of the government overreach and the illegal way that the government is behaving, because the legal bar to invoke the Emergencies Act was not reached. And so it's an illegal thing to invoke. But regardless of all that, I don't know if it's illegal, but I mean, if the legal bar isn't reached, I don't see how it can be a legal action. But regardless of that, it's about a naked power grab. You know what I mean? Like, it's about enshrining their power and blaming the truckers for it, right? And it's such a disgusting thing to live through. And well, I mean, did you hear about Tamara Litch not getting bail? They said they denied her bail this morning. Did you hear about that?
Yeah, and she's gonna get 10 years apparently.
That's the max penalty for somebody who's got mischief charges. 10 years. So the person who ran over the trucker protesters was out on bail in less than 72 hours. They got arrested at 10 p.m. on a Friday night, and they were out by Monday.
That was Edmonton, was that?
That was in Edmonton, yeah. So I mean, like, when the government is using their power to crush the citizenry because they don't like what the citizens are doing, we've got a problem. And the funny thing is, I think people are and I talked about this on my show this morning, I think that people just don't believe that it could happen here while it's happening here. They're like, no, that would never happen in Canada. And it's like, well, yeah, right. And it's like, well, hey guys, like, you may not like it, but guess what? Like,
it's happening. And something that people have been experiencing more and more, which is actually not new in the Western world, But the Canadian flag, like Canadians have been so demoralized and brainwashed by the Canadian media that certain Canadians who are brainwashed now see the Canadian flag as this like hate symbol or something.
Oh,
Like
that's being pushed. Yeah. Apparently there's
yeah,
places, there's police who are pulling people over if people are flying the Canadian flag from their cars. Yeah.
yeah,
It's being
or
pushed.
people just see the flag and like they're disgusted by it or something, which is like
I think those
if you
are
want, if you
bots, sock puppet farms.
no, like IRL
Like
in real life,
in
this is
real life.
happening
Oh
as
my
well.
goodness
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
That's
Like
terrible.
I got heckled a few times walking around Ottawa
Hmm.
outside of the protest area, and someone like heckled me, and I thought to myself, huh, because
Yeah.
I'm wearing a Canadian flag, that's why he yelled at me. That's
Yeah.
interesting. That's very
Yeah.
interesting. In the state capital, or in
Yeah. Right. In
the
Ottawa.
country's
Weird.
capital, no less.
Yeah. Oh,
And
sorry. I forgot.
that is obviously, sorry, just like
Yeah.
a symptom of a very, very sick nation, of a very,
Yeah.
very sick Canadian establishment. We all already know this, but it's a good kind of tidbit to share with people. Like, hey, the Canadian flag is now seen as like something of disgust. Like,
Yeah.
doesn't
Yeah.
that make you feel kind of weird?
Yeah.
Don't you want to know like why that is? CBC calling freedom far right. You know, it's crazy.
Yeah, people don't think about it. The thing is, so I was saying before that instead of dealing with the actual core issue, they'll have a conversation that is like related, but a step or two away from the core issue. So we always get deflected away from talking about the core issue to talk about something like Pat King and his relation. And we're all, the right, or people who are saying what you're doing is crazy. Anybody who disagrees with them, always on the defense because they say you're just racist. So you're always on the off foot. You're always defending, and you're never, ever actually on offense about the core issue. You're always saying, I'm not this, and you should listen to me about this other thing. Right.
And this, and that's, sorry to cut you off, but that's
yep.
pretty well everything that the official opposition has been doing wrong for the past 6 years, and even probably in the Harper years as well.
Yeah,
Oh no, I'm not racist. All defensive. It's like no. That's not the way to go about.
Just don't even engage.
Change the frame. Change the frame. That's what we need to be doing.
Right. And just say like this whole country is not following its basic governing laws. Like the charter has been used by Trudeau as toilet paper for the last 6 years.
Yeah, so. And the statement should be: we have people being beaten in the streets by cops because of who they are. How is that different from racism?
That's taking the moral high ground from them, by the way. But they won't accept it.
No, but we need to change the moral.
I agree with you, man. I agree with you.
Yeah,
but the people who are actually there trying to do in charge, it's their job to make those arguments. They are not of that mental space yet. They're not in that mental space yet. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, but I'm just saying, like,
we need to. I know.
Yeah, we need to start doing it. The people need to lead the politicians, because in many ways that's what the trucker convoy was, right?
Yep. No, that's true. That's very true.
Leading the opposition from the grassroots, because
So the declaration of emergency, clearly not, neither one of us think it's justified. Neither one of us, I couldn't even define the emergency because, again, when Black Lives Matter and the Indigenous protests were happening a few years ago, we had a much bigger backlog at the ports because they were blocking the rail lines. So like nothing was really getting in. And there was all sorts of pressure on supply chains back then too. And so now terrorism, now the emergency order.
Yeah. It's we have the majority of MPs in the House of Commons essentially agreeing to declare a state of war against its own citizens who disagree with them.
So I've had pushback because I said that yesterday to a couple of people I was talking to, and they're like, "Oh, you're being dramatic. It's not really a state of war." So it's the War Measures Act, right? The whole reason that they drew it up was because they didn't like that Pierre Elliott Trudeau could invoke it so easily in the FAQ crisis, right? That's what I read today. That could be wrong. It could be a misinterpretation. I'm not sure. That's what I read.
Didn't politicians get kidnapped?
Yeah, there was kidnappings, there were bombings, there's all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, but there was a little different.
But the RCMP was involved in the bombings. One of the RCMP guys got caught red-handed, and so like there's all sorts.
Isn't that interesting?
Right. Well, what happened in 1933? Then that fire when Hitler took power too, right? Didn't they need that fire as the excuse to get the power because of the Reichstag fire? I'm saying it terribly bad, but it's probably wrong too. But there was an inciting incident when Hitler was like, "See, look at these crazy people. I need these powers." And then bingo, bango, bongo, right? History, as it's currently known, is written. Right? Are you frozen? I'll pause it.
Yeah, and there's always been a history of interesting events that justify power grabs. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Yeah. And the necessity of that inciting event, that needed kind of, look, see, we've got a crisis, and oh, you're frozen again. Ha. Oh no, you're back. You're back. All right. Well, we
No,
better
I'm here.
wrap
I'm
this
here.
up.
I'm here.
We better wrap this up before you just get frozen and never come back. So final thoughts. What do you think, man? What do you think is going to happen next?
I think, first of all, I think it's important to realize that the establishment is absolutely terrified of what's happening. They are squirming, they are flailing, they're trying to call all these emergency measures, and it's up to the people to actually enforce this stuff. And really, it's on them. Like, if they want to be on that side of history, then by all means, be my guest to be on that side of history. But I think that not much has changed. What's changed since the convoy is we see how many of us that there are now, and we agree, and we think we don't think, we know we're on the right side of this issue. So we should be really emboldened, and we should feel galvanized, because that's what I think is what happened. So essentially, we need to look at a little bit of the long term, a little bit of the, more professional organizations, more sort of like community and network building between like-minded Canadians who want freedom. And whether that's supporting the PPC or starting something else or starting your own organization or continuing to network within your own community, like all of that stuff needs to happen, because it's very clear we have a hostile federal government who is trying to, that whole Great Reset thing, that whole World Economic Forum thing. Yeah, it's real, and it's happening. And
Seems so.
The next thing they're going to go after is our freedoms on the internet, of course, to try to take our comms, our communications away. But people should feel emboldened to stand up, because people need to see how fake the media is. People need to see how corrupt these individuals are. And then once that continues to grow and continues to snowball, we'll see what happens next. But obviously it's going to be chaotic and messy, but it is a step in the right direction.
Maybe. I am more pessimistic than you are. I see the crackdown and removal of our basic rights as canary in the coal mine. And I think about, the timeline. 1933 is when Hitler got his power, but it wasn't till a few years later the teeth really became apparent, and what was going on became undeniable. And I mean, like, the history of it is murky anyway, but bad things happened, and bad things happened. You can trace it back to emergency powers. And it just seems like the pausing and removal of our rights is a harbinger for worse things to come. And not that I'm not sure about, like, rah, let's keep going. I mean, I think we need to respond as a country. We need to respond and speak out. And protest is legal in this country. We're allowed to assemble. We're allowed to have a voice. We're allowed to disagree. But it seems like the more we do that, the more we put a target on our back, and the less tolerance anybody's got. And if they can throw the book at you for something like mischief, they're going to, right? And it's like, oh, man, we're in such a precarious dance at this point in time, and it could go so badly so quickly. I feel I don't know, a lot of worry, right? But I think that's the point. They want that. So so I hope your attitude is contagious and my attitude is ignored.
Yeah. And I mean, there's really two ways you can look at it. You can try to, no offense, but try to hide in a hole and avoid the state and avoid this. It's just a matter of time until they come and find you anyway.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why it's important that we continue to stand up now. While we still do have more rights than not, because soon, if things keep going, we're going to have less rights than ever. And it's going to be a lot harder to speak out. It's going to be a lot harder to stand up. It's going to be a lot harder to congregate, and on and on and on. So that's why it's important to, I think that's a really bad attitude to take on, actually, in terms of like, oh, well, maybe I can just keep avoiding the, the clearly tyrannical government that wants to kill me.
It's not about that. No, it's not about that. Like, it's about the analogy I always say. It's like there's a runaway freight train, and like, if you see it and you stand in front of it, are you really going to have the ability to stop it? And like what I see at this point in time is a disaster. If I stand in front of that thing's going to take me out, take out everything that is connected to me, and keep on rolling like I didn't even exist. And I'm not saying that to demoralize people. I'm saying that to say, like, I've watched people like Jordan Peterson, Donald Trump, everybody jump in front of this thing, right? Get taken out. And some of them have come back, right? Peterson took years, right? And not necessarily in front of this particular train, right? But a similar monster, right? Like the woke ideologues, the universities, and it's not just like the government. It's not just the tyrannical government, although they have tools that can come after you now too. But it's like professional affiliations. You blacklisted on certain jobs for, city positions or things like that. And it's not just me, it would be other PPC people, anybody who stood up for to run for PPC or things like that. So like, I'm willing to stand up and do what's necessary. But the problem is there's a problem, right? Carry on. Sorry. No.
Right. I would correct your analogy there of the train though. So they are building that train right now. If they build that train, then we're absolutely fucked. Like if they successfully build that train, then yeah, then it's going to be the end. What we're doing right now, Jordan Peterson and others, we are criticizing the people building the train and saying, look what they're doing over here. And all they have right now, well, they have a lot, but for the most part, it is
they're standing in the train and they're turning it on. They're flipping the switches.
But their most effective, no, they're building the train, and their most effective defense, their most effective attack is a bunch of journalists and politicians surrounding the people building the train saying, get out of here, you're racist, get out of here, you're racist. And it's like, we need to just break up this thin line, this thin circle of corrupt politicians and journalists to be like, hey, clear the way, look what they're building over there. Yeah, let's
I'd love to
peacefully remove them, right?
I'd love to.
Because
I'd love to.
but this kind of goes back to what I was saying, is because if we don't prevent them from building that train, then it is going to be like literally jumping in front of a train.
But it's not just them building the train. We are too, right? Like we've got phones, we've got infrastructure, logins, all sort of digital money is already basically here. We are building this just as much as they are building this. And Amazing Polly did a great video, I don't know, 3 years ago saying, do you understand? And then she held up her phone like, this is a prison. And she made the case, and it was a great case. And I was like, we should probably give up our cell phones. Like these things are terrible. Facebook's terrible. These things are terrible. They're not good for you. They're bad for you. And everybody still has them. You can make a case. People will be like, yeah, I really should give up sugar. But right? Like it's the same damn thing. Doesn't matter if it's good for you or bad for you. People don't give a shit. And until that train comes careening through your life, right? And your bank account gets frozen and you're unpersoned and you can't eat and your family's not allowed to have any credit because they're feeding you, until you realize where you live and that that's real and possible, nobody's going to fucking believe it. Excuse my language. I'm sorry.
I think technology is more neutral. I think there's a dark side to it, especially with social media, but
look at
that's
Reddit.
a whole other topic. Mark, you need to visualize in your head the gracious and glorious rise of the populist right in Canada, because it is happening. Okay. And guess what? As we rise up, and you know what, in many ways, maybe think of this convoy like when Trump came on the scene and said, they're coming with drugs, they're rapists, like that was the trucker convoy. And now they're saying, oh, they're so horrible. And that's just the beginning. This is just the beginning.
I don't know about the Trump analogy
of our rise.
I hope so. Down an escalator to the top.
Don't be afraid, guys.
No,
don't be afraid of the Trump analogy, guys. Just do not.
No. I mean, not. I'm not. I think Trump, again, like Jordan Peterson, more good than bad. I mean, we were in a war with Ukraine. People were pushing for a war with Ukraine. The president's son didn't have like interest in the Ukraine when Trump was president. Mm-hmm. Right. This whole thing is that's a whole other conversation too, isn't it? But I mean, I'm not trying to be terribly down on everything. I'm looking at things. And I'm like, man, this looks like a bad ending to this chess game. So I don't know. I'm sorry that I feel.
Well, no, but I mean, why do you think it's the ending? It really is the beginning. Like, dude, we've more Canadians than ever are now united against how evil the
So
Canadian establishment is.
right. Okay.
So
So my
why
friend,
is that?
my friend this morning was saying basically the same thing you were saying. Cause I sent him a couple
Yeah.
of things saying like,
Okay.
well, I sent him a couple of things talking about how there were a couple of people whose bank accounts were frozen and, the terminology about how to get it unfrozen. Christia Freeland basically said like, in order to get your bank account unfrozen, you need to stop protesting the government. And he was like, oh, and the other thing was, yeah, that's what she said. Like, you need to stop supporting the convoy. You need to stop being in the convoy. The convoy's been over for like, there are a couple of people, in different places on the way home, but it's been over. But anyways, regardless of that, he was like, I sent him the prediction of the C11 being passed, the no jab, no job being passed federally, like federal regulations around forced injections for having a job in Canada. And what was the other thing? But he said for the no jab, no job, that won't work. People will be really upset about that and they'll oppose that. And I was like, oppose it how? Like, say you get a convoy of let's say 10,000 trucks. Never mind. People are saying 50,000 trucks. Who knows? 50,000 trucks. Say you get 50,000 trucks to say no means no. We hate this policy and we disagree with it and you shouldn't do it. And you go down to Ottawa and you bring it right to Trudeau's door and you say, I don't like this. What does the government do? Does the government say, oh, you're so right. Your opposition changed my heart and mind? No, they demonize those people. They said those people are terrorists and they used that as an excuse to crack down on the rest of our rights and put those people in jail and threaten them with 10 years in prison. Like, right? Like, we have to think, we can't pretend this all went swimmingly. It didn't, right? And not that we have to own that, but we have to understand that we were manipulated. There was a manipulation. Somebody maybe infiltrated the convoy leadership, the post ad hoc shoehorning in of the terrorist plot or the insurrection idea or whatever it is. All of that is a manipulation on the Canadian people. It is done by the government, and fighting against it, saying no to a new policy after the Emergency Act is in place, we have no power. That's what happened last night. The train got built, turned on, and is hurtling down the track. And if you stand in front of that train and say, we don't like this policy, Trudeau laughs and puts another shovel of coal on the coal pile, speeds up the train, and he doesn't give a shit. He doesn't care. Nobody does. Not school boards, not municipal, not provincial, not police associations, not medical associations, not children's aid associations, not anybody. Nobody cares. If anybody speaks out, they get removed from their position and replaced with somebody whose ideology is WEF approved. I'm telling you, we're in so much trouble. Like, I hope I'm wrong, man. I hope I'm totally, totally wrong and misread this completely. I hope you're right. I really do. I really, really do. But so see you next week.
Yeah, you're just saying that because you didn't go to the convoy. You still think you're isolated and alone and that nobody feels the same way you do. When what we saw at the convoy is that there's actually millions and millions and millions of
I get it. I know, but like, look at how easily.
So why are you despairing? I don't understand.
Because it was crushed easily, and we don't have the next step is what?
I wouldn't say it was crushed easily. They had to call 3 state of emergencies. They had to mobilize all sorts of police forces everywhere. They had to create all sorts of fake news. They had to throw so much at the wall. And even then, it doesn't make any sense. And the reason you should be excited, Mark, is because people do care more than ever. People do care more than ever. The credibility of the news, the Canadian news media, is plummeting, and nothing can improve until that happens. And that is starting to happen now. So you should be very excited about that, because these are the 2 big wins, in my opinion. Canadians are starting to care about politics and seeing how ugly it is and starting to actually engage. And then Canadians are actually starting to care and engage with Canadian politics. And 2, the credibility of the mainstream media is plummeting. It's like, it seems like a mess right now, but it's like, this is a very important step to waking up the country. Waking up the country isn't going to be a neat process, Mark. It's not going to be like, oh, and then we all started to hate Trudeau and then we just quickly voted him out just like that. No, it's going to be ugly. It's going to be painful. There's going to be martyrs. There's going to be people thrown in jail and all this nonsense. And that just goes to show how terrified they are of losing their power. And
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think that in a way, we're in a worse position than when we started, but it's only accelerating the inevitable.
Yeah,
And
I believe that. I agree with that.
and to be quite frank, like, I think we're going to get more done now because people have been peacefully radicalized. Uh, yeah. So
Are we going there?
peacefully, yeah.
Peacefully, peacefully.
No,
Yeah.
seriously,
With Jordan Peterson videos.
man. It's because it's like, we were concerned about the government being out of control. They're overreach. Them being drunk on power.
I know.
And it's like, yeah, actually it's way worse than we thought. Trudeau showed his hand, and it's time to get together and not jump in front of the train, but team up with people on the other side of the tracks, get a steel beam, and start to
Crash that darn train.
start to make things happen. Yeah.
Have you seen Unstoppable? It's a great movie. Okay. I hope your optimism is justified. I hope it works out. I hope we stop this runaway train in a safe and controlled manner, peacefully and with love and support. And I'm being genuine.
Stop being black-pilled. Stop believing all the politicians and thinking that there's lots of people who agree. There's not that
but
many.
Their action, no, it's their actions that I'm looking at. Their words are nonsense, but the actions and what they're getting away with, because they've got people to enforce it. They've got the jackboots on the ground, right?
People should be looking towards the Ontario election, and people should be looking at the long game of the next election in Canada, and people should be looking. People should.
It's because there's not a lot of hope on the
people should be
horizon
looking at other practical solutions to like the current challenges they have. There's not a lot of hope for what?
For Ontario election.
Says you.
Yeah, says me. Yeah. No, I agree.
Did you see how many Give Send Go donations were from Ontario?
There were a lot. I'm hopeful, man. I hope so. Yeah. My fingers are crossed, man. I really hope so. I really do. Because and I'm not trying to be pessimistic. I know I am being pessimistic, but I'm not trying to be. It's like I've lived in Ontario my whole life. I did the Mike Harris years, right? I watched the Ernie Eves years and the Dalton McGuinty years and the Kathleen Wynne years, right? Like I've lived all of these things. It doesn't matter how terrible the government is. Ontarians are like, I've always voted PC and I'll always vote PC. It doesn't matter, right? They don't care, man. And like the NDP, we tried that one time, 1995. Bob Ray, right? Awful, terrible. My dad hated him. 1990 to 1995, I think it was 91, 95.
I don't think that matters anymore, though. Like I think for a lot of people,
they play party politics.
Well, that might be what they're focused on, but like for most people, it's freedom. Period. They want their freedoms back. Period. Yeah.
No, most people don't care, man.
I think you're underestimating how shooken up people are, and how a shakeup, and how the convoy has really melted away the nonsense of fear and the fear programming over the past 2 years. It's like, it's broken the spell for a lot of people. You can still believe that everyone is just as brainwashed as they were before. And I'm sure there are still a lot of brainwashed people, but it's too bad that you don't have any hope that like no one's mind has been changed over the past 3 weeks, when I can guarantee you,
I think
not only have minds changed, but minds are changing. And the people who cared really care now, and are starting to join the fray.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of people whose minds have been changed. But what I'm saying is this is beyond that a little bit, to the degree where the people who are planning this have people in positions of power, to the degree where if the ideology that a chair of a Catholic district school board or a upper grand board or something like that, if they say something that doesn't agree with the post national woke ideology, critical race theory, gender theory stuff, they step down by themselves, because the woke mob will come for them. And like, that's what I'm talking about.
Mark, I like, this is your low vibrational fear energy.
Sorry, man.
I can barely even stand this conversation, bro.
But
what is the other option, man? What is the other option? You want to just roll over and just end it, dude?
No. That's not it. That's not it. Like, I wish I could see a way out. That's what I'm saying. I wish that I could see a reasonable way out to solving this problem. And I wish that it wasn't a problem that I see in the United States, in most states, in a lot of states, not most, but a lot of states.
I can tell you that the solution, you cannot imagine what the solution is going to be. You cannot imagine or expect the solution that's going to be. And
Chrystia Freeland takes over.
You got to have faith, man. You got to have faith. And I mean that in any sense that you want. But for me, it's like the Bible and Jesus Christ, baby.
Sounds good. I think we'll end it
Maybe.
there.
Because seriously, it
Yeah.
was the convoy, the trucker convoy. No. One last point. The trucker convoy was a miracle. 3-week protest. The media does not have one clip of anyone being belligerent and violent. They don't have anything.
Yeah,
Nothing.
well, until the police showed
Nothing
up.
happened. No, but like, in terms of
With the
like
police
a
being
very
violent,
crappy
yeah.
clip of like some like protester being an idiot, didn't
Yeah.
happen.
No,
Didn't
nope,
happen, man.
it didn't.
And
There wasn't one.
that is a miracle. That
Yeah.
is a miracle.
Oh yeah, yeah. Having that many people down there, and I mean, what happened was unbelievable and very, very uplifting. And we'll see how it all works out. And I hope that it works out the way you think and not the way I think. All right. And for everybody watching, I mean, sorry for all the pauses and stuff, but I think this was a really good conversation. And I mean, Greg and I clearly don't always agree on everything, and that's okay. We can have a difference of opinion and we can discuss it, and then we can go away and be friends. And I'm sure you'll talk to people about.
I don't want it to end on these like negative down notes.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you. I
It's
think
like
that
bothers me so much.
I agree with you. I don't like ending on a negative note. So I think we're gonna win.
God,
We're gonna
Anyway.
win, man. We're gonna win. It might take a long time, but we're gonna win. Thanks for watching.
yes,
everybody.
we are gonna
We'll
win.
see-
It's inevitable, dude.
We'll see you next week.
Bye. Bye.